Welcome, Gunrunner.
As one of the best-selling consoles of all time, the Nintendo NES is a system that is instantly recognisable to all, and one that most video game fans will feel that they're pretty familiar with. Originally developed as the Famicom before being released as the Famicom in Japan in 1983, it sold over 60 million units worldwide and gave birth to some of the greatest franchises ever, like Super Mario Bros., Zelda and Metroid. But that doesn't mean that there isn't more than a few more obscure factoids about the console that you might not be familiar with. We're not talking about stuff like Super Mario Bros. 2 being a reskin of Doki Doki Panic and the preposterous Power Glove here, more like the troubled origins of the NES and what led to its unique design. There's probably some you know here, and you may have heard some of these stories before, but hopefully you'll also learn something new from this list, and perhaps it'll make you see the old grey lunchbox in a whole new light. So here we go with 10 amazing facts about the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Nintendo, a quick-loading cartridge system with over 60 of the hottest titles ever. Games like Batman, a life-and-death struggle to end the evil Joker's reign of terror and save Gotham City. Games like Super Mario Bros., a battle to rescue the Mushroom Princess from the evil Koopa Turtles. Go for the joystick for extra control, or go to infrared for remote control. The hottest games are on Nintendo, the world's #1 game system.
We all know the NES is one of the all-time greatest games consoles, but the original plan for the system actually positioned it as a console-computer hybrid, somewhat like the original roadmap for the Mattel television in fact, and very much like Atari's XE game system. You see, the Advanced Video System, as it was first called, would follow the mantra of its Japanese sibling by being a family computer. With home micros like the Commodore 64 and Atari 8-bit taking control of the consumer market in 1983, it seemed like a sensible step. As well as the main console, Nintendo also planned to release a full-size keyboard, disk drive and printer to make a complete computer package. But after the negative reception to this idea, Nintendo went back to the drawing board and came up with the NES instead, but more on that later. One of the key design principles in the creation of the Famicom was to produce a system that was as low cost as possible. Nintendo wanted a mass market device that would become a logical companion to the TV and video player in every home, not an expensive gadget. They knew that with every chip added to the motherboard the price would rise considerably, so teamed up with Ricoh Electronics to create a solution to this. The answer was the 2A03 processor, which contained an MOS Technology 6502 CPU at its core, as well as a 5-channel sound generator and device controller to do things like read the joypads. This simplified the design greatly, with just one chip taking the place of 4 or 5 separate ones. This innovative practice would soon be adopted into the design of many subsequent systems. It's common knowledge that one of the largest contributors to the North American video game crash was the glut of low-quality games arriving on the market and lack of any quality control over them. When Atari released the 2600, there was no such thing as third-party software, and it was only the arrival of Activision that changed that. There was nothing that stopped people from making their own games to the 2600, and there was no way Atari could control it. Nintendo didn't want the same thing to happen to their own console, so came up with a special lockout chip that needed to be added to cartridges in order for them to play. The system BIOS would look for this chip as soon as the power button was pressed, so Nintendo would control who got to publish games for the NES, and would monitor the quality of them through their famous seal of approval. Of course, people did eventually find a way to get round this, most notably Tengen, but this practice definitely stemmed the flow. One of the most incredible facts about the NES is that there was originally a plan to brand it as an Atari system in North America and Europe. In 1983, the Big N entered into negotiations with Atari to release the Famicom under their name as the Nintendo Advanced Video Gaming System. The deal was set to be finalised and signed at that year's Consumer Electronics Show in June. However, Atari discovered that at the show its biggest competitor Coleco was illegally demonstrating its Adam computer with Nintendo's Donkey Kong game. This was a direct violation of Atari's license with Nintendo to publish the game exclusively for its own computer systems. Atari's CEO Ray Kazar put an immediate freeze on negotiations and cancelled the signing whilst the mess was sorted out. However, he was fired the next month and new CEO James Morgan wanted to reassess all of Atari's business ventures and developments before moving forward. This delay would also allow him to weigh up Nintendo's console against their own 7800 Pro system, which was being developed by General Computer Corporation at the same time. Ultimately, he felt that the 7800 was the better option for the company, especially as the Nintendo machine would produce very little profit. Atari strung Nintendo along for as long as possible in order to delay the console's release before Nintendo got fed up and decided to try and market the machine themselves. A lot of people seem to assume that Nintendo Entertainment System was an instant success, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The Big N actually experienced a lot of resistance and even negative press on the path to launching the system. Even when it did make it out the door, it was a couple of years before it really started to gain serious traction, mostly thanks to the launch of configurations containing Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt as packing games. During its test market, the NES received a lot of less than favourable press, with patriotic writers complaining about its Japanese origins, whilst others backed the rival Atari 7800 Pro system as the much superior console. The delay of the latter due to the takeover of Atari's consumer division very much worked in the NES's favour here. The somewhat negative reception to the advanced video system had got Nintendo thinking. It was not only the media who were less than impressed, but retailers were also reluctant to get their fingers burnt on another home console. So Nintendo decided that they should reposition the redesigned Nintendo Entertainment System as a toy, rather than a console. Changing the design of the system to replicate that of a VHS video player was the first step, but the introduction of the robotic operating buddy was the magic ticket. When demoing the NES to potential distributors, Nintendo put R.O.B front and centre, selling the system and its toy and educational attributes. It worked very well too, as all the major retailers started to stock the NES with displays based around the grey plastic figure. Undoubtedly, one of the lesser known and more interesting facts about the creation of the Famicom is that it was hugely influenced by the ColecoVision. Takayo Sawano, who was in charge of the Nintendo Gamecom project, actually bought a ColecoVision home to his family to play on, and they were very impressed by the system's capability to produce smooth, arcade-like graphics and sound, especially when compared to its rivals such as the Atari 2600 and Mattel Intellivision. Masayuki Yamura, who was head of Famicom development, also stated in interviews that the ColecoVision very much set the bar for the system, and the main task of Nintendo's engineers was to technically surpass it. As we all know, the famous Nintendo joypads were copied over directly from the Game & Watch handhelds, but did you know that the Famicom design team originally wanted to use arcade-style joysticks? In fact, they even set about dismantling some from American game consoles to see how they worked and gain inspiration. However, there were concerns regarding the durability of joysticks designs, and that children might step on them and break them easily. So designer Katsuya Nakawaka attached a Game & Watch D-pad to the Famicom prototype, and found that it was easy to use and caused no discomfort. Of course, they would release an arcade stick later on in the form of the NES Advantage. One chief complaint that consumers had from the early years of video gaming was that the actual games they played rarely matched the box art. Nintendo executives felt that software companies had been deliberately misleading people and wanted to avoid that on their own system. They insisted that the games people played should be perfectly represented on the packaging, and that is what led to the creation of the early black box games, with their blown up pixels and blocky stylings. This was soon forgotten about though, as they soon went back to the status quo, albeit with an often more minimalist slant. When a lot of people think about the Nintendo Entertainment System, they recall its epic battle against the Sega Master System, especially if they're from Europe, where the machines were much more evenly matched. But the battle between Nintendo and Sega actually began long before that, from the very beginning of the Famicom's development in fact. Back in 1982, Sega of Japan had noticed a sharp downturn in the sales of arcade machines, and saw that the market for home systems seemed to be prospering. So they set out to develop a home console of their own that would become the Sega SG-1000. But during development of the system they got wind that big arcade rivals Nintendo were working on something very similar of their own. This pushed Sega to speed up development of the SG-1000, so much so in fact that they released the console on the exact same day as the Famicom in Japan. Ultimately, Nintendo won that battle of course, but it served as the catalyst to one of the greatest rivalries of all time.
Do you know about the best-selling game system in the world? About Nintendo Game System? Do you know about games that will swipe you off your feet like you're really in them, with real sound and real pictures that come out and hit you in the face? Games that'll challenge you till you explode with excitement.
I can restore life. I can give magic. I can.
Games that you'll never want to put down, that'll dare you and captivate you. With so much action, you'll be absorbed by them until you're sucked into your television set.
And that rounds up my top 10 list of amazing Nintendo Entertainment System facts. I hope you enjoyed this little trivia quest, and please let me know if you know any obscure NES facts of your own. I always love to hear from my viewers and join in with the retro gaming community. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons for continuing to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following patrons in particular for their much appreciated pledges: Mitchell Valentino, James Taylor, Neptune, Chaotic, Seth Robinson, Carl Olsen, Dos Gamerman, Tiago Piera dos Santos Silva, and Electron Star Collapse. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now, where you can get access to a host of extra content, including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights, and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.